Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video I will be demonstrating how to crochet part 1 of the Ripley Shawl. The Ripley Shawl is the Moogly Fall Crochet Along for 2019, so this pattern will be released in 3 parts over the month of October, and there will be 3 tutorial videos demonstrating each section. This will be part 1, which is the shell section. For this pattern, you'll need 1 cake of It's a Wrap sprinkles. However, if you would like it bigger than I have written it for, you will need to buy a 2nd cake, and those expansions will come in parts 2 and 3. You'll also need a USF hook, or whatever hook you need to reach gauge. That's a 3.75 millimeter. This one is by Furls. Let me go ahead and set these aside, and I will stretch out the shawl here a little bit so you can see the first section that we will be tackling here today. This is the shell stitch section. It is absolutely the most complicated part of the pattern. After that, it gets actually progressively easier. So we're going to knock the tough part out of the way first, but as you can see, it is a really beautiful stitch pattern. So let's go ahead and get started making part 1 of the Ripley Shawl. As you can see, Red Heart It's a Wrap Sprinkles is a center pull cake. Now, if you'd prefer to run the colors the opposite direction, you can do that too. Just go ahead and work from the outside. So that's something you can decide before you get started. Now, I'm going to begin with a magic circle. I do have a separate tutorial for this on the blog, which I will have linked at the link in the description as well. At the link in the description, you'll also find both right and left-handed video tutorials and a link to the written pattern and everything else you need. So please do go to that link if you do crochet this pattern. So let's go ahead and start with row 1. We're going to make a magic circle, which means I wrap the yarn towards me twice around my finger. Then I'm going to go under both loops with my hook. And as you can see, this yarn is made of 4 individual strings. So you do have to pay a little bit more attention when you're using it to make sure that you aren't splitting and going in between those strings. So just be aware of that as well. So I'm going to pull that string right under there, that little bit of the yarn. And then I am going to chain to sort of lock that down. I'm not going to count that as a chain. It just sort of locks my magic circle together. Then I'm going to actually start chaining with a chain 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Now this chain 7 is going to count as a treble crochet and a chain 3. So what I want to do here, and I know this seems really fiddly, but will help us a lot later. What I want to do is pull up my stitch markers. I'm going to go ahead and use my little guys here because this is a nice thin yarn. And if I pull up my hook a little bit so I can set it aside, oops, it's going to slide away on me there. There we go. What I want to do is find the 4th chain of the 7 I just made. So 1, 2, 3, 4. That 4th chain will count as the top of our treble crochet. So I'm going to go ahead and put my stitch marker right in that 4th chain. So now, even though I've just chained 7, it's like I've got a treble crochet and a chain 3. So I'll carefully put my hook right back in that loop and pull it down here. And then I can continue crocheting the rest of row 1. I'm going to treble crochet. So I yarn over twice. Go right back into that ring, and I want to make sure I go under both loops, including the tail there, and make a treble crochet. So pull through 2, pull through 2, and pull through 2. It gets easier. This first row is a little tricky. Now that we've got a stitch wrapped around it, though, I'm going to go ahead and pull my finger carefully out of that loop, like so, because now it's a little bit more stable, and I can just work into it without holding it open with my hand there. Then we're going to chain 1, treble in that magic ring again, or the magic circle, I should say. Just make sure to go under both of those loops and try not to drop any of your strings of yarn here. There we go. Looks like I dropped one of them right there, so I'm going to pull that back out so I can grab it. There we go. Straighten it out a little bit. Then we chain 1 again. And treble crochet again. So we'll pull through 2, pull through 2, pull through 2. And so far we've got our chain 7, which is a treble crochet, chain 3, then a treble crochet, a chain 1, a treble crochet, a chain 1, a treble crochet, and now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then treble crochet right back in the ring one more time, like so. So it's fiddly, but it's definitely just this setup row that is this fiddly. At the end, the stitch count is 5 treble crochets. You've got this one here that you've marked the top of with your stitch marker, 2, 3, 4, 5. So at this point, you can go ahead and close up that magic circle if you like. There we go. And we can turn and work row 2. Okay, so to begin row 2, we're going to start with a chain 4, which will count as our first treble crochet. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oops, let me pull that through again. There we go. Now I could put a stitch marker there if I wanted to, but I don't necessarily need to at this point because I'm going to keep making more treble crochets. I haven't actually turned yet, so let me turn. And then I'm going to make 6 more treble crochets right in that first stitch. So that last one we made in the previous row, we're going to go right back in there with 6 more treble crochets. So there is, whoops. Like I said, this is a little bit of a fiddlier yarn. You just need to take your time and make sure you are always getting all those loops on there. And of course, right now for filming, I'm kind of working around a microphone, so my own sight line isn't fantastic. It's a lot easier, of course, when you're holding your yarn the way you're used to doing. So let's see here. There's 2 more. We've got 4 more to make. We will be making lots and lots of treble crochets in this section. Now, if you find that this yarn isn't for you, I mean, it really is beautiful. It creates beautiful effects. It's got a great drape. But if the fiddliness of it, the smallness of it isn't to your liking, you can absolutely use a larger Red Heart or Yarn Inspirations yarn on this pattern. It will just end up being a bigger shawl. And you would need to adjust the hook size to fit your yarn, of course. So let's see here. I've just been kind of making them while I chat rather than counting them. So we've got our initial treble, and then we needed 6 more. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there we have our 7 treble crochets. Then we are going to skip this chain 3 space right here and then work, let's see, a single crochet. I have to follow the directions too. This part's complicated. Work a single crochet in the next treble right there. Like so. Kind of hold that open there so you can see it. Then we are going to skip this chain 1 space and work a shell in this center treble crochet, the center one from previous row. A shell for this pattern is 9 treble crochets all worked into the same stitch. So we skip that chain 1, and in that next one we're going to work 9 treble crochets. Okay, so here I've got the 9th of my treble crochets. And if I stop for a moment, you can see those are all worked into that center treble crochet from row 1. Then we are going to skip the next chain 1 space and single crochet in the top of the next treble crochet. Oops. There we go. Get right in there and make our single crochet like so. And then we are going to finish off row 2 with skipping this chain 3 right here and working 7 treble crochets in the last treble crochet. So that is the top of that chain 4 that we marked right there. That will actually be, get that loop back on there, that will be the top of our next treble. So I'll yarn over twice and go ahead and work 7 treble crochets right into this marked chain. Okay, so when you have 7 treble crochets worked into that top of that marked stitch, you can go ahead and take that stitch marker out, and we're ready for row 3. At the end of row 2, you should have a 7 treble crochet group, a shell, which is 9, and another 7 treble crochet group. So moving on to row 3. To begin row 3, we'll start with a chain 1. I'm going to turn now to work back the other direction, and I'm going to single crochet in the very first stitch. There we are. Then chain 2, 1, 2. Oops, it dropped a little bit of a string there, so let's try that second one again. There we are. There's 2. Then I am going to skip the next stitch and single crochet in the stitch after that. There we go. Then I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. I skip 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, which lands us right back at that single crochet. And in that single crochet, I am going to work a treble crochet, chain 1, treble crochet, sort of a really tall V-stitch. So we'll yarn over twice and go into that first single crochet there and make our first treble crochet. There we go. And then we chain 1, yarn over twice, and go right back in that single crochet for our second treble. There we are. And that is finished. So then we chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3. Skip the next 4 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that next one lands us right in the middle of that shell. So in the middle of that shell, we are going to work a single crochet and then chain 2, 1, 2, then treble crochet, again, right back into that same stitch in the middle of our shell. So we make our treble there. Then we chain 1, we treble crochet again, right back in that same stitch, so kind of another tall V-stitch made there. And then we chain 2 again, 1, 2, and single crochet one more time right back in that stitch, right? All that is worked in that same stitch right in the center of that shell right there. So then we're ready to chain 3, 1, 2, 3. Skip the next 4 stitches, which lands us right back at that single crochet where we're going to work another one of those tall V stitches. So we yarn over twice, go right back in there. Make our treble crochet, chain 1, another treble crochet right back in that single crochet. There we are. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3. So you can see how that looks right there. We skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet in the next stitch. Chain 2, skip 1, oh, there we are, skip 1, and then single crochet in the last stitch, which will be the top of that chain 4 that we started that first shell with in the previous row. So you kind of have to get in that chain there for that last single crochet, like so. So at the end of row 3, you should have 6 single crochets and 6 treble crochets, with this big standing up bit right here in the center coming out of that center shell. So after that, you are ready for row 4. All right, row 4 again begins with a chain 4 that counts as our first treble. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I am going to skip the chain 2 space right there that we made in between those single crochets, and I'm going to make a shell in the next single crochet. So that one right there. And if you remember, a shell is 9 treble crochets all worked into the same stitch, whichever one is indicated in the pattern there. Now, there are lots of different types of shells out there, so every time you see the word shell in a pattern, you definitely should not assume that it means 9 treble crochets. It's just sort of a quick abbreviation that can be used to substitute for big sets of stitches like this, and it can definitely change from pattern to pattern. I'm sure I've got other patterns where I call for a shell that's totally different. So definitely, if anytime you're making a shell pattern, make sure that you look closely at the pattern itself to see what kind of shell it is that you are making. Okay, so I have got my 9 treble crochets made there for that first shell. So then I'm going to skip the chain 3 right there, and I am going to skip that next stitch, and I'm actually going to single crochet in the chain 1 space. So that's the chain 1 space right in that tall V. So we just want to make a single crochet in there. Find the next single crochet over here and work another shell in this single crochet. So again, that means 9 treble crochets. Okay, so now we've got our shell made in that single crochet, and we're going to go ahead and remember we had all that stuff worked in this stitch right up here. We just want a single crochet right in that chain 1 space, right in between those treble crochets. Like so. Let me try and pull that open a little bit more so you can see there. That's right in the middle of that tall V stitch that we did on top of our shell. Then we're going to jump down here to the single crochet we worked in there, all in that same stitch, and make another shell. So that's another 9 treble crochets. Okay, I think I've got my 9 made here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. So I can jump over here to this next chain 1 space here in the center of that tall V. Make my next single crochet there. There we go. Pull that through. One wants to get caught. There we go. And then I jump to this next single crochet here and make another shell. Lots and lots of shells. You can see why this one is called the shell section. Okay, so I've got one more here for this shell. And then we will finish off our row 4 here by skipping that last little chain 2. It's kind of hard to see there. We've got that chain 2 and we had that last single crochet. We're just going to go ahead and make a treble crochet in that very last stitch. So find that last single crochet. I guess it would have been the first one you made in the previous round. There we are. And go ahead and make your last treble crochet right in there. And there we are. That is row 4. At the end of row 4, we have 4 shells. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we're ready to move on with row 5. Okay, so to begin row 5, we're going to go ahead and chain 1 and turn and single crochet in the very first stitch again. If you have trouble when you come back finding these, you can absolutely use a stitch marker. I tend to use lots and lots of stitch markers when I'm crocheting and designing. It always helps me find my place and make sure I'm not missing anything. So we'll just go ahead and stick one right in there. Then we're going to chain 2 again. 1 and 2. We are going to skip the next stitch and single crochet in the stitch after that. Like so. Then we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip 3 stitches. 1, 2, 3. So that puts us in this one right here. We're going to single crochet in that one as well. There we go. Then we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. And skip 3 stitches, which puts us all the way over here to that single crochet. In that single crochet, we're going to work one of those tall V stitches. So that's a treble crochet, chain 1, treble crochet. So you can see those V stitches are sort of the rows we work in between our shell rows to get ourselves set up for those. Carefully pull that one through there. There we go. Sort of straighten that out. There we go. And then we are going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. Skip 4 stitches this time. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we land in the center of this particular shell. Single crochet right there. Then we chain 3. 1, 2, 3. There we go. Put a little bit more yarn. Skip the next 4 stitches so it puts us right back in that single crochet right here on the other side. And we are going to work another V stitch here, but it's sort of an expanded one. We're going to do a treble crochet, chain 1, another treble crochet, then chain 1, and 1 more treble crochet. So it's sort of like a V stitch, but with 1 additional chain 1 and treble. And I want to point something out here. This happens a lot with this yarn. You'll be working along with it, and you'll have, it seems like one of the strings is a little bit extra, it might mean that you missed a little bit of it back here, but sometimes that just happens too with this yarn, and it's okay to just go ahead and keep working. And if you find that you end up with a part of this yarn that's sticking out, try and capture it in your stitches for the next row, almost like it was a yarn end, sort of work it right in. The great thing about this yarn is with all the color changes, you won't really spot that, and you don't necessarily want to have to pull out every time you end up with one of these little extra bits of yarn. I tend to just kind of work it right into the pattern. So here we are in the center. You can see now at the center of row 5, we've got our treble, chain 1, treble, chain 1, treble. So then we're ready to start working down the other side. So we're going to start with a chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and then skip 4 stitches and single crochet in the next stitch. So 1, 2, 3, 4 skipped, single crochet in the stitch after that. There we go. Then we chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, and skip 4 more to land back in that single crochet where we'll work another tall V stitch. So treble crochet, chain 1, treble crochet, like so. And then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 stitches, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the next, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 3 more, 1, 2, 3, single crochet in the next, then chain 2, skip 1 stitch and single crochet in the very last stitch. So that'll be the top of our chain 4. That counted as our first treble crochet for the previous row, like so. So there we are at the end of row 5. I'm going to hold it up there so you can see what it looks like. And at the end of row 5, you should have 8 single crochets and 7 treble crochets. So you can see how that looks right there. And we're ready to move on to row 6. All right, so let's begin row 6. We're going to start again with a chain 4, which always counts as our first treble. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we're going to work 2 more treble crochets back in that very first stitch. So right in the top of that single crochet at the end there. So there's 1. Oops, I definitely dropped some loops there. Let's make that one again. Yarn over twice, go right in there. So there is 1 treble. And here is our second treble. So essentially in that very first stitch, we've made 3. Then we are going to single crochet in the next single crochet. So that's right there. So we go right there with a single crochet. Then we're going to jump to the next single crochet right there and work a shell stitch. So that is our 9 treble crochets again. Okay, so now we've made our shell with our 9 treble crochets. So we're going to come over here and single crochet in the next chain 1 space. Remember, that's right in the middle of those treble crochets. So we just go right in that chain 1 space for our single crochet. There we go. And then we shell in the next single crochet. So jump on over here to this next single crochet and work another shell. Okay, so I'm finishing up my 9th treble crochet for this particular shell. Then we're going to jump over here, and you can see this is at the top here where we've got our treble, chain 1, treble, chain 1, treble. So what we want to do is single crochet in the next treble, not the chain 1 space. We're going to go ahead and single crochet right in that treble crochet, like so. And then we are going to shell in the next treble crochet. So that's the center one of those 3 right at the top. So let's go ahead and make a shell right in there. Okay, so after you've made your shell in that center treble crochet, we're going to single crochet in that 3rd one right there, because now we're working down the other side and we want to keep it symmetrical, like so. And then we jump to that next single crochet there and work, what do you think? Another shell. Okay, so I am finishing up that shell. And then I come down here and we've got that tall V-stitch. So I'm just going to work a single crochet right in that chain one space, like so. And then I need to make one more shell here in the top of that next single crochet on top of that next shell. Okay, so I finished up that last shell. So now I just need to single crochet in that next single crochet right there. And then to finish up the row, I need to make 3 treble crochets in that last single crochet. So this is the one I put the stitch marker in. So I know I have come to the right place. If it's hard to work the stitches with the stitch marker in there, you can go ahead and take those out or leave it in until you are done. I'm going to go ahead and take that out. It was a little harder to get past. So there is our second one, or in progress, I should say. There we go, and one more, so that this will mimic what we did at the beginning and keep it symmetrical, like so. There we go. Okay, so here we are at the end of row 6 then. We've got our 5 shells, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 2 little nubbins, little 3 treble crochets at the beginning and end to finish that off. So after that, we're ready to move on to row 7. All right, so to begin row 7, we're going to start with a chain 1, and we are going to make a single crochet right in that very first stitch. And again, I think I'll go ahead and put a stitch marker in there just to make sure I am staying right on track when I come back the other direction. There we are. Then, and I do want to point out here, this yarn is a little fiddly. I always find it, the more I work with it in one session, the easier it gets as I go. And I think it's because I change my tension a little bit and tend to hold it together a little bit more with my fingers and maybe keep a little bit more tension on it. So that might be something for you to experiment with as well. So let me get lined up here again. There we are. We've got that first single crochet made for row 7. Then I'm going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then I'm going to make a treble crochet, chain 1 treble crochet, that tall V-stitch in the next single crochet right there. So I will yarn over twice and find that next single crochet and make our treble, followed by a chain 1 and another treble right back in that same stitch. There we go. Then I'm going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and single crochet in the next stitch, so right in the top center of that shell. Then I chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I repeat all of that again, starting with that tall V-stitch. So we do a treble, chain 1 treble right into the single crochet. So there's the first treble, chain 1, and the second treble. Then I chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 stitches and single crochet in the next. So 1, 2, 3, 4, single crochet right in the center of that shell. Then chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 stitches, and that's the end of that repeat. Now we treble crochet, chain 1 treble crochet in the next single crochet right there, because we are coming up to the center here, so that's why we have to change a little bit. Right back in there. There we go. Pull that up a little bit. Now we are going to chain 3 and skip 4. 1, 2, 3. And this is our center shell here. So we skip 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then in the next stitch, we are going to work sort of that tall, funny combination of stitches we did before. Start with a single crochet, chain 2, 1, 2, then a treble crochet right back in that same stitch, followed by a chain 1 and another treble crochet back in that same stitch, like so, and then chain 2, 1, 2, and then single crochet right back in that same stitch again. I kind of tend to think of it in my own head as sort of like the little crown on top of the shell there. So that's the single crochet, chain 2, treble, chain 1, treble, chain 2, single crochet, all in the center of that top shell. From there, we're ready to start working back down the second side. So we want to mirror what we did before. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 stitches, and then we begin if you're following along with the written pattern, the part in the brackets again. We're going to treble crochet, chain 1, treble crochet in that single crochet right there. So there's a treble, chain 1, and another treble. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 stitches, single crochet in the next one, chain 3 again, 1, 2, 3, and skip the next 4 stitches and then start the part in the brackets again. So that's a treble crochet, chain 1 treble in the next single crochet. So there's treble, chain 1, treble, like so. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 stitches and single crochet in the center of the shell there. Then we chain 3, 1, 2, 3, skip 4 again. That brings us to this single crochet right here. And we are going to treble crochet, chain 1 and treble crochet in it. So there's our treble, chain 1, and treble. There we go. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and finish off with a single crochet in the last stitch. So make sure you come all the way over here to that chain 4 that counted as our first treble of the previous row. Get my hook in there. There we go. And single crochet. So that should mirror then what we did at the beginning. You can see right there. It's getting a little bigger. I have to kind of move it here so you can see it. But this is the end of row 7. You should have 8 single crochets and 14 treble crochets made in this row. Now let's move on to row 8. Okay, so to begin row 8, we're going to start again with the chain 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to make sure I turn here and make 6 treble crochets right back in that first stitch. So that single crochet we made at the end of the last row is our first stitch for this row. Oops, let me put that back on there. So this isn't quite a shell. It's going to be the chain 4 plus 6 treble crochets. So this is, oh, didn't get enough yarn over. Can't talk and crochet at the same time. Sorry about that. There we go. So this is just going to be essentially 7 treble crochets here, so not a full shell. All right, so there is my 7th treble crochet. And then I am going to single crochet in the next chain 1 space right there. As you may or may not have guessed if you're picking up on the pattern here. And then I am going to do a repeat that in the written pattern is in brackets 6 times. Basically, shell in the next single crochet in the next chain 1 space. We do that 6 times, and it's going to take us all the way over to get us back to this other end. So let's go ahead and start working on those. Shell in the next single crochet in the next chain 1 space all the way around. And I will work with you as we get to the top here as well. Okay, so I've been working our repeat here with single crochets in those chain 1 spaces and shells in those single crochets, but now we are approaching the center here. So I just wanted to go over that with you guys so you understand how this part works. I've got my single crochet in that last chain 1 space, and here we've got that little sort of crown I was talking about. Remember, we've got a single crochet there, sort of our V-stitch there in the middle, and another single crochet there. So we are going to work our shell in the single crochet right here. We've actually done this before. Of course, we had fewer repeats then, but we're going to go ahead and do it together one more time here. So we put our shell in that first single crochet of that little crown section. It just reminds me of those tiny little, I don't know, like a crown from my childhood, something you'd see on a fairy princess or something. Like I said, this section is a lot of work with all these shells, but I think the end result is just really beautiful. And by the time we have finished the end of this row, we really will have done all the parts of it. It's just going to be a matter of recombining them for the rest of the shell section, which I will explain a little bit further here when I'm not trying to also crochet at the same time. There we go. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got 4 more to go. So there's 1, 2, and 3, and 4, like so. Oop, I say like so a little prematurely there. There we go. Sort of work that right in there. There we go. Now, so that was in that first single crochet of that little crown section. We've got that tall V-stitch in the middle. That's where we're going to go ahead and go right in that chain 1 space. If I can kind of hold it open there for our single crochet. And then we're ready to start working back down the other side, but we want to make sure to put the shell in that second single crochet of that crown. After that though, it's just single crochet in the V-stitch, shell in the single crochet in the V-stitch, shell in the single crochet in the V-stitch until we get right back to that very end stitch. So I'll see you when we get to the end of row 8. All right, so before we finish up row 8, let's take another quick look at the written instructions and check our work here. We've got that chain 4 and 6 treble crochets, so those count as 7 treble crochets right there. Then we single crocheted in that next chain 1 space, and then we began our repeat of shell in the next single crochet in the next chain 1 space, and we need to do that 6 times. So we've got 1, ending with our single crochet there, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So at the top there, it was just kind of squished in on that little crown. So that's perfect. We've ended our repeat with our single crochet in the chain 1 space. So now all that's left to do is 7 treble crochets in the last stitch. So that is our marked stitch right there. We know we're in the right spot. And at the end of row 8, you should have a total of 6 shells plus those 2 little almost shells, 7 treble crochet shells at each end. 1 at each end, I should say, 2 total. All right, and there is our 7th treble crochet to finish off row 8. So I'll go ahead and get that one out of the way there. And you can see this is how row 8 looks when it is finished. Okay, so we've worked the shell section together through row 8. The shell section itself goes through row 23, and yes, you'll need the written instructions because each row is a little different. However, I think you've seen a pattern emerging here. We have the rows with the V-stitches and the rows with the shells, and they're very similar, but there are 6 different repeats for the ends and 4 repeats for the centers. That's why each row up through row 23 is just a little bit different. If I'd kept going, I think we would have come up with something like a 22, 24 row repeat. But as it is, each row is its own instructions. That said, you've done them all now. We've done all of the beginnings and we've done all of the centers, some of them a couple times. So you've seen them all demoed. So you can go through the written instructions and just follow that for row after row after row. After that, it will be time to move on to part 2 and the granny stitch section. But before we do that, let me go ahead and pull up this shell section one more time on the finished shawl. Spread it out a little bit here so we can see it. And you can see if I pull up my swatch again, which got buried underneath, there we are. It matches up with just like so, with those first 8 rows. From there, you're going to keep going. You see we've got this one right here where we made the 3 treble crochets with the chain 1s in between, another shell on top, then we had another crown, then we did a row like we just did. So it's just a really easy 4-row repeat through the center, and it keeps working out. So when it comes to the repeats for beginning a row, you're either chaining 1 and single crocheting and then working a row of those tall V-stitches, or you're chaining 4 for a treble crochet and working a row of shell stitches. So they just start a little bit differently, but like I say, you've now done them all. We've seen them all demonstrated. So you can just follow the instructions to see which beginning, then sort of follow that pattern to the middle, take a glance at the instructions or look back at your work and see which of those middles you've got. And you'll keep building out through row 22. And then we'll move on to row 23, which will be our granny stitch section right up here. So you can look for that in part 2. So that's how to crochet part 1 of the Ripley Shawl, part 1 of the Moogly Fall Crochet Along for 2019. Please go to the link in the description for right and left-handed video tutorials, as well as a link to the written pattern and all the supplies you need. I hope you'll give Red Heart It's a Wrap Sprinkles a try, whether it's with this pattern or some other pattern. And I hope this video has helped you with part 1 of the shawl. If it has, please give it a thumbs up. If you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments. And please do subscribe to the Moogly YouTube channel and hit that bell so you know when parts 2 and 3 come up and anytime we add another great video. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day, everybody.